It is Halloween night, and we figured what is a better way to celebrate tonight than to jump on and argue with each other about the movie, the remake, Halloween 2007. We are here. Some of us are in costume. Some of us don't know how to have fun. I am your host, Rob Coakley, joined as always by Dave Wilkins.
I am not here to have fun. I am here to argue about horror movies with you, Rob.
I am also joined by Sir Jesse of Whitmanshire, the fourth of
Whitmanshire,
his
indeed.
name.
What's going on?
What is up, guys? And we are going to talk about the movie Halloween, as I said in the intro. And we kind of skipped to this one because this is one of the more divisive films in the franchise, I would say. And I think some of us, I honestly don't know what everyone's take is, but I feel like we're going to have some different takes on this particular one. And I'm excited to talk about it. But happy Halloween to everyone that's joining us in the live chat. We are so excited to see you. Dave, will you tell the fine people that are watching and listening in live chat and the people that were listening around the world afterwards a synopsis of Halloween 2007?
I will. Halloween 2007, directed by Rob Zombie. Nearly 2 decades after being committed to a mental institution for killing his stepfather and older sister, Michael Myers breaks out, intent on returning to the town of Haddonfield, Illinois. He arrives in his hometown on Halloween with the indomitable purpose of hunting down his younger sister, Laurie. The only thing standing between Michael and a Halloween night of bloody carnage is psychologist Dr. Samuel Loomis.
I would say he's not the only thing. I would say there's more things that are sort of standing in the way. But
There were several things sort of standing in the way, at least sort of standing in the way. But this is the first remake of the original Halloween movie from 1978 by John Carpenter. And a lot of people gave this movie a lot of shit. And I don't agree with a lot of those people because I thought this movie, it at the very least holds up. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the original Halloween. If you watched the last movie review from last year, then you'll know this. I wasn't big on it, and I am big on this one. I thought it was great. I thought that a lot of the things that I didn't like about the original Halloween movie were improved upon in this one, and we can go down those list of things. But I guess overall, I thought this movie I think it stepped it up in a lot of different places. Now, there are some issues with this one that I have, but for the most part, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. I love the spin that Rob Zombie put on it, despite the stranglehold that he was put in by the production company on this. And they really just walked in and wanted to manage the whole thing, tell him he was doing everything wrong, and really fought him on this. And I think that the product that he put out, I thought was really good. I think this was a fun Halloween movie, and I thought it absolutely trumps the original.
it sounds like a behind the scenes of every week at Hometown Ghost Stories when we're just telling each other that we're all doing everything wrong.
Yeah, that's how we do it. That's how you come up with the best possible product. If you just
create a stressful work environment for everybody 24/7.
Rob, I don't know if you want to give an overall take on this or if you want me to go down my list of things that I thought were better about this movie than the original.
Yeah, I think we should all give an overall take on this first. And before we get into our positives and negatives, what I will say is when this movie came out, I remember not hating it as much as other people hated it, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
I never liked it as much as the original, and we'll get into some of the reasons why. I will say I thought I had watched it recently, but upon rewatching it today, actually, I'm like, I actually don't think I've watched this movie in over 10 years at this point. So it was not a completely fresh set of eyes, but I got to go in it with a little bit of a fresh perspective. And I didn't like it as much as I liked it when it first came out, is what I will say before we get into all the reasons why and why not. So, Jesse, do you have an overall thought on this before we jump into that?
Overall, rewatching it, I enjoyed it. I thought I hadn't seen this remake, but once I started watching it, I immediately was like, yeah, I've seen this before. I wasn't sure that, I mean, we're not going to nitpick yet, but overall, I thought it was well written. It was a cool take on it. You got to see more of the backstory, and I did actually enjoy it. So overall, it was good. I liked it.
Cool. Well,
All
let's get
right.
into it then.
Well, let's start. Let's do it this way on this one. Let's start with our positives for the movie, and then we'll get into our negatives. So, do you want to hit us with some of your positives, Dave?
Sure. I can start. So what I'll do is I'll compare my positives to this movie against the negatives that I had from the first movie. So just a quick recap on the things I didn't like about Halloween 1978, which was the reason I thought that the movie was overrated. Right now, just to be clear, if you guys aren't familiar with our positions on the original Halloween 1978, it is definitely an iconic movie. I think it set the table and paved the way for 80s slashers and everything that came after. It is absolutely one of the most influential slashers of all time, blah, 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 blah. Also one of the most overrated horror movies in the entire genre, in my opinion. In my opinion, and the reasons that I gave for this were as follows. There were things I didn't like, right? So I immediately had a problem with the kills. They did a lot of the cutaway kills. There wasn't a lot of blood and gore, which I know isn't everybody's cup of tea, but if you're going to have a slasher, especially if you're going to point to this slasher as the apex of slasher movies, which a lot of people do, for me, it's just not violent enough. It doesn't show enough. Too many cutaway scenes. It's not. I feel like it takes some of the shock away from what you need for a slasher movie. So, off the bat, this movie ramps up the kills tenfold. The kill scenes are way better in this, and I think that's indisputable. If you disagree with me, I think you're just wrong. I think it's just an objective fact. The kills are better in this movie. So that's number one. Number two is the car. Michael Myers doesn't drive around in a car for the entire movie in this one. That was a huge problem I had with the first one, and where you have this serial killer who's supposed to be scary, and he's just the embodiment of evil, and he spent his entire life in a mental institution since he was a child, and then he gets out and just drives around. It makes no sense. So they got rid of that, I'm pretty sure intentionally. And the point that I want to make, that I think everyone really wants to hear about, is the foliage. They got the foliage down in this one.
They did.
This was possibly the worst take, Rob, that you've ever had in any of our horror movie reviews. Was how were they supposed to build a set with leaves? Like, this is Hollywood. They can make anything. You can have a set on the moon. You can be medieval castle. You can be wherever. But you're like, no, they can't recreate foliage in the fall. Halloween 1978 looked like they were walking around on a bright summer day. All the bushy green leaves. Fun fact, this movie was shot in between the fall season. They started shooting in January. They finished shooting in August. There was no autumn. And they made the movie look like Halloween.
It's impossible. You can't recreate foliage.
It's impossible. I know. So those are my main three improvements.
Just fuck off. They shouldn't have filmed the first one in California. That was the mistake all along.
Rob, it doesn't matter where you are. If it's not fall, you're not going to have foliage. All you have to do is you create a movie set. You want it to look like Halloween, make it look like Halloween. This movie proved it can be done. So these are my main three things, which I think are improvements. But overall, the main difference about this movie that I actually like, that most people don't like, is the fact that the original movie, there was this level of ambiguity. You didn't know anything about Michael Myers. You didn't know why he was a killer. You didn't know what he was doing. There was no backstory. And what Rob Zombie wanted to do to set his movie apart from John Carpenter's was he wanted to add a little bit of a backstory. And that's what you got. So I thought he did a good job giving a little bit of the backstory without going too overboard, and still kept that level of ambiguity because you didn't know what Michael Myers' intent was with Laurie Strode. There was still this whole second half of the movie where he's stalking her, and you didn't know whether he was stalking her to kill her or stalking her because he loved her or what. He left that level of ambiguity. So you have a little bit of the throwback to the original where it was an ambiguous kind of scary vibe where you didn't know what the deal was, and you also had a little bit of the backstory, which I think helped flesh out the characters. So,
yeah, there was a ton of character development as well when you were dealing with the storyline when he was a kid, and this was something that I actually really liked, to a point where I actually liked the movie better with the story before we time traveled 15 years forward, because when you have him as a kid, You have some real acting in there. You have, obviously, it was a little wacky when it first started off. I thought the guy who played his stepfather was overacting a bit.
Yeah.
The whole scene inside the house, like there was a little bit of overacting and goofiness in the beginning of the movie, which you expect in slashers, but overall, like, it was really well acted. When he gets to the asylum, you see the pain, you see him screaming, I want to go home, I want to go home. And then obviously that's not possible, but I thought just the acting and the story of when he was a kid, I almost wanted that to be the whole movie. Just obviously you're gonna end up with a Michael Myers walking around and killing people like he normally does. But I actually kind of lost, not completely, because like I said, I enjoyed the entire movie. But once we got out of him being, us getting the story from his childhood, I kind of like, all right, here we go again. The same old Michael Myers movies that we've seen a million times. But
it's a remake,
right? But overall, though, a couple of things that bothered me a little bit. I really didn't like some
You
of
haven't even given a positive yet. Do you have any other
I
positive?
just said I really liked when he was a kid. I thought it was well. I said it was
Yeah,
well
so
acted.
you like the
I said I
acting?
liked the storyline. I thought they did good character development. The kills were much more gory and brutal in the beginning of the movie, and I thought they tied it together really well. And then, so yeah, some of the strange things that I didn't like is I don't know if Rob Zombie does this all the time, but he has these like super zoomed in shots that are just really shaky and uncomfortable to watch. And I just didn't really like the way that they shot some of it. A lot of it was shot really well, but you get these like a random close up of someone's forearm as they're walking. It's just like, why are we so zoomed in right now? Like what was on set that you're trimming out of this shot? It just felt like it was forced zoomed in about 200% when it didn't need to be. And it kind of, I don't know. It just didn't, it bothered me. I don't know.
I can't. My haunted door behind me. Sorry,
Always.
I can't think of of a specific example as to what you're talking about with the zoom thing. So I don't really have a thought on that.
You'd catch it again if you watch it. If you're looking for it, you'll catch it. Just because we're psychopaths and we edit videos all day, I'm just like, why is that so zoomed in? Like, I don't know.
I know he likes to do that freeze frame thing a lot. Like Rob Zombie definitely has a style in his movies, and I'm full disclosure, I'm a huge Rob Zombie fan. I'm not a Rob Zombie simp though, because there are plenty of movies of his that I don't like. I thought Lords of Salem sucked.
One of the worst ones I've ever seen.
3 from Hell was pretty terrible, but he does get that like hellbilly kind of vibe that he throws in all of his movies, which I'm a fan of, and he loves to do that like almost feels like a vintage freeze frame effect that we saw in this movie a few times that I really liked. We can get into more of the specifics, but Rob, why don't you hit us with some positives?
So some of the positives for me is I think that of all the Michael Myers on screen across the board, I felt like this was the most imposing looking Michael Myers out of any that we've had. And I take that as a positive. I could see why people would take that as a negative as well, like that he's just like too hulking almost and just too, but I think it works for the character personally, and I enjoyed that particular version of Michael Myers.
I agree.
I thought that I understand what you're saying, Jesse, and I think Rob Zombie does go too gritty all the time with some of his movies. Like there's just this bleakness about every scene for the most part, where
it seems like he just hates his life.
Yeah, and
why are you like this?
And I understand it's a horror movie, and I'm not looking for sunshine and rainbows, but even the positive scenes still have like this bleakness to them. Like just I don't know. Like when you first are introduced to Laurie Strode, she's very happy, she's joking around with her family, but there's still this like just this tone that's set in it that you're just like, I wish this was a little more positive, so that when it gets negative, the negative hits a little bit better. So I guess that's it's more of a positive than a negative, but because I do like that it's gritty.
There was some, I mean, like, I feel like, don't you think there was some contrast with the girls were very upbeat characters in the beginning? And
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, like, even when they're upbeat, I just think he should relinquish that gritty tone that I do like. And I'm saying I like it for the majority of the movie, but just relinquish that a little bit, make it a little bit brighter in those instances for me to really contrast it is kind of what I was looking for more than anything. But overall, the grittiness is good.
Sure.
There's some really good acting, specifically by the girls in this movie, I think. There is a scene in this movie that I think is the most realistic looking scene and the way somebody would act in a situation like this, which is when Danielle Harris is attacked in the house, and the
On the
first
couch.
instinct is to run out, and she gets pulled back in, and as soon as she gets pulled back in, she removes the flight mode and goes straight to fight mode and is digging for anything. And just her reactions in that, I think, is phenomenal in this movie, and I think it's one of the best cases of that. So those are some of my positives for this movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that he spared his little sister. Obviously, that's part of the story. You know, the baby. Like you see him go into that room, you're like, please don't. And he doesn't. You know, he just sits out in the steps and waits for the police to come. And then man, poor Danny Trejo. I'm sitting there. I'm like, Danny's been nice to him. He's gonna save Danny Trejo, but no, he not only killed him, he like tortured him much more than he killed everybody else.
I like
So-
that because you thought that he was going to spare him, right? The way I feel like the way that he set that up, you thought there was the one guy who was the asshole, and then there was Danny Trejo who was nice to him. And you thought it was going to come back, and he was going to spare Danny and kill the other guy. But it just goes to show that he wrote this character as an absolute sociopath who has no connection to anybody who cares about him at all. I mean, obviously, right? He killed his family. And I thought that was a good way of portraying that. I thought the other good way he did of writing this was with the masks. Now, this was obviously, you know, John Carpenter wrote the character to go around killing with a mask, but to be able to incorporate that into the child character and the backstory where he's just always hiding behind a mask, particularly when he's doing bad things, just shows that psychological aspect of a serial killer where they want to hide behind the mask. I think that was pretty well done also.
Yeah, it
But-
was kind of cool, especially when they had him in his cell and all he's doing all the time is just designing different masks. And they tied it in when his mother was visiting him in the institution, and he even refused to take off the mask when his mother was visiting. And he's like, "Please put the mask on. Please put the mask back on." So
Right, but
it
you
was-
saw the transition from when, like, at first he was there and he was like, "When can I go home?" And he's not wearing a mask, and then he starts wearing the more he's wearing the mask, the more disconnected he becomes. So it's
Yeah.
almost like a build up sort of. But
Right.
so into some of the negatives, whereas I liked the backstory. I liked how he added the backstory. I thought it was cool. I thought the original movie needed that. Didn't need to be overdone. I don't think it was overdone. But the problem with this is he kept the runtime pretty low and backfilled the backstory, which made the second half of the movie feel really rushed. You didn't really get to develop Laurie Strode. You didn't really get to develop her friends. It was just all of a sudden the second half of the movie was just rush through the kills and everything. I think that's my main negative of this movie, which I think hurts it overall. And I think maybe with a longer runtime, you can get away with that. But then on the other hand, if you add the longer runtime into a slasher, you run into situations where it's just too long. So
yeah, it's already relatively long. I think it was like at least
know if
2
it was
hours,
the-
right?
All right.
Right.
So this touches on two of my things. I think you guys are absolutely insane with your positive of liking the opening of this with the backstory of him. It's actually one of my two big negatives on this movie.
I knew it would be.
This is a big problem of mine when people try to take these characters that are very specifically something and make, like, this is my problem with the Joker movie, right? Like the Joaquin Phoenix one. Was that a good movie? Yeah. Should have been a Joker movie? No. And it's for the same reasons of this movie. Michael Myers is supposed to be the embodiment of evil. And the reason why the first movie, the original movie, it starts off with him killing, it starts off with him in the mask. It's because you're not supposed to ever feel sympathy for this character. You see the blankness of the character. You see that he embodies absolutely nothing. There's nothing to show sympathy for. And the opening scenes of this movie showing the transformation of, like, child Michael Myers, giving you some sympathetic feelings towards him, run for 35 minutes. We are doing that for 35 minutes while he's a child before it shows him as, like, the absolute definition of evil or whatever, which he still isn't even in this movie. So that is a gigantic negative for me. I don't think that we needed to do that at all. I don't think you need to give his character a backstory. He's not supposed to have a backstory. He's called the goddamn Shape for a reason, because he's just supposed to be a silhouette of an empty void of a human that is killing people. We don't need the backstory on Michael Myers. We never will. I understand you need to do things that are different, but I don't want a backstory on Michael Myers. I want my hands back on, but I had to open up my phone to get to my notes to get these actual run times on stuff. Dave,
Runtime was 110 minutes. Why did John Carpenter add a backstory in though without adding a backstory? Why do we need Michael Myers killing as a child? Why can't you just introduce him as the shape, as this guy who walks around? He kind of gave him a half-assed backstory.
He didn't. He showed him as the shape. He just showed him from the time that he was in the embodiment of evil for the most part. Like that, there's no backstory there. Really,
He showed him. The opening scene in Halloween was Michael Myers as a child killing his sister, right, from the POV. Right, that's his backstory. He killed as a child. That gives a backstory without giving one. And I feel like you possibly could have pulled this off if John Carpenter just introduced Michael Myers as fully grown Michael Myers. You don't know what he is. You don't know if he was ever a child. You don't know if he's a real human. Then I can say, okay, sure, maybe he's some sort of evil entity, which is kind of the way they went. But John Carpenter did start him as a child, which shows that he is a human and he did grow up, which implies that there was some reason that this child was corrupted as he was growing up, but you got nothing. So that's why it was a negative for me. It was like you skimped out on the backstory. Whereas if you just introduced him as this evil entity, you possibly didn't need the backstory. So I liked the way that Rob Zombie backfilled it, gave it a little bit of depth, but then continued with the ambiguity. So it was like he best of both worlds.
I heavily disagree on this point. I think you're completely insane on this. I think you can show him as a kid because you can just show that he's been evil the entire time. I mean, the evilness started in the beginning.
But
like
you humanize him. You're humanizing him by showing him as a child. Contrary to your point.
I don't think so at all.
What do you mean?
Because he showed you no reasons to be sympathetic towards him. He was a blank slate from the time that he was a child.
Showing him as a child.
As a child, not showing him talking, showing the blank face on him after he kills. He is evil to the core, no matter how old.
But they showed some reasons. They showed that he just wanted to go trick or treating. Sister didn't
in this movie
take it. In this one, yeah.
The original I'm talking about. But I'm saying just the fact they showed him as a child begs sympathy for that character because you're seeing him as a child. You don't just look at a child and be like, oh, obviously that child is inherently evil. You say, why is that child evil? Whereas if you just introduce Michael Myers as fully grown Michael Myers, he's the shape, he's evil, you don't know what he is, then I agree with you. But they already gave the backstory by showing him as a child.
Dave, all children are evil. Like it's a known fact.
Ghost children.
Kids are the worst.
I like kids. I like my kids. Yeah. I don't like Rob's kids. The worst. So
continuing into this, it's 35 minutes of the child backstory. Laurie Strode doesn't show up until 50 minutes into this movie. And this goes into that point that you were just making, Dave. I think this is actually the biggest travesty of this entire movie, is waiting 15 minutes to introduce your protagonist. I mean, you can make the case that Loomis is the protagonist, but he's not. It's Laurie Strode, and we needed more of her in the Friends, and I think that's absolutely the weakest part of this movie. I thought
well, hang on. Technically, Laurie Strode was in one of the very first scenes.
Oh, come on.
She was in the entire
dude, come on. Come on. We're talking about the actual, when she shows up as a teenager, not as a baby. Let's get realistic about this, Dave. Let's be serious for once. As I wear the frog costume. I just think that her character and her friends' characters building more tension with them throughout the movie would have been better. And I know that's sort of, going back to the original Halloween, but I still think you could have built that tension in other ways. I think that they flipped some of the scenes, they recreated some of the scenes and did them in different orders, which was really cool. But dude, that to me, those are my two biggest problems with this movie as a whole.
Mm-hmm. My other negative is I think Sherry Moon did fine in this, but I feel like Rob Zombie, my only thing with Rob Zombie is he always has to force Sherry Moon into some sort of role in all of his movies. Sometimes she's great. I thought she was great in House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. I thought she was fine in this. There's a lot of movies where she's just not good. And he gave the excuse that he cast Sherry because Sherry's tall and he wanted there to be a reason why Michael Myers was 6'9", hulking monster. So, which everyone who heard him say that was like, that's not why. You cast her because she's your wife, and you cast her in all your movies.
Because you are
And she's
forced to.
she's not a bad actress, but she's just all right. She's
Yeah,
just all right.
she does like I liked her in 31. Lords of
Yeah.
Salem, as you brought up. It was one of the first movies one of the most recent movies, and we watched this a while ago. We watched this together and we shut
Yeah.
it off. We were
Yeah, it
like,
was so bad.
no, I can't finish this movie. This movie
It was so
is
bad.
absolute trash. Anyone watching this movie wouldn't be like, oh, I get it. He's tall because his mother was tall. Like,
Yeah,
where
she's
did
tall.
where did you have ever gotten that in this movie?
No, she wasn't.
That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, you also never met his father in the movie, right? It was
Right.
So could have had a tall dad.
Could have had a tall
You
dad.
don't need to explain why he's tall.
You don't need to. He's just big. That's obvious bullshit. I did like I like how Rob Zombie sticks with his cast, with his crew there. I do like that the entire House of a Thousand Corpses cast was the security crew at the asylum. I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Literally all of them. The whole family, the whole Firefly family. That was great.
That was pretty good. Getting Sid Haig in there as the
Sid Haig is the gravedigger. Yep.
As the gravedigger was really good.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna Trejo, but if you're gonna do the headstone thing again, the original headstone was cooler than the one in this movie, and I feel like you need to make the headstone cooler than the original one.
Yeah, I agree.
In my opinion,
but I mean, it was fine.
It was fine, but I was just like, man, I still like the one in the original better. That's something that you could easily make cooler. So,
absolutely,
small nitpick.
A small nitpick. That's a word.
It was. I thought you were going to say nip tuck.
Nip tuck. It's a small nip tuck.
We're all flustered now.
What else do we have to talk about this movie?
How about this? Family is clearly poor, right? They don't make a lot of money, theoretically. They go back to the old house. It's falling apart. This poor family had an in-ground swimming pool. They just had an in-ground swimming pool. They make no money, and they could afford an in-ground swimming pool.
That's why they were poor. Spent it all in the pool.
Maybe.
God damn.
They never showed that the pool was like functioning though, like active.
No, but
could have been empty.
Could have been empty.
I mean, but come on. If you can afford a house with an
could have been full of unpaid bills.
You could buy a house that has an old decrepit pool that you can't fill because the pool's in bad shape, and it actually could take money off the value of the house. That's possible.
Maybe they're using it to skateboard.
Maybe. That'd be fun.
It would. I mean, overall, like the kills in this movie, I thought were pretty consistent. The acting was pretty good across the board. Some of it was overdone, but you kind of want that in slashers, right? It's kind of a tropey thing. So it was fine.
Give me an example of an overdone kill in this movie, because I thought they were all pretty.
No, I was just saying overacting. I didn't say that
overacting, not
kill
overdone.
That was overdone. I thought it was
like overacting in the kill scenes.
There was a few points in the movie where, you get these in all of them. You're like, how did you not see him there? The biggest, most glaring one was when the couple went in so they could go inside and hook up in the old broken down house. And he's just standing over the balcony, just looking right. Like that was the first thing you would see when you walk up to the house. Now, maybe this was Halloween night. So maybe they mistook him for a Halloween decoration, but no one's going and decorating the abandoned property. So I was like, this is just goofy. How did you not see that?
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think the kills were there were definitely some really gratuitous kill scenes, but I think a lot of the kills were actually just camera work more than anything. If you go back and watch it, they were doing a lot of close-ups and shaky cam on a lot of the kills to really mask it. I'm guessing that was a studio thing more so than a Rob Zombie thing. If I had to guess to hit rating would be my guess on that. I'm not 100% sure.
I can't imagine he was going for rating on this.
Maybe the studio was. I'm sure the studio wants it to be R. You can't release at this point in time. You couldn't release an unrated movie. You just couldn't. Terrifier is the first one that's showing that can actually be successful. So I'm sure that there was.
I know they based the rating on blood. This is a bloody movie.
Right.
There's a lot of blood.
But
There was no
could have
blood
been
in
more.
78. There wasn't a single drop of blood in Halloween 1978.
Yeah, didn't need to be, but we don't need to rehash that.
There did need to be.
Mm.
There did need to be. The idea was like, we can do it without it. And I mean, you can make the argument that
That they were
the
successful.
movie was very successful. But
You
that's a
could make the
bullshit
argument that they did.
You can make the argument that they totally pulled it off.
What a
Huge
failure
success.
as we do our 19th Halloween review.
I know.
I think this is actually our second one. This is
It's
the
our
only.
third. It's our third.
Is it our third?
Yeah, we had
Oh,
Halloween Kills too,
because we
which
did
I think
all
might have been
the-
our very first horror movie review ever.
That's right, because we did the more recent ones, but we've missed a lot of the in betweens.
That's right. Oh, we did End too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so on the whole chronology, right? You had Halloween 1978, which was an obvious hit.
Yeah.
And then you had flop after flop after flop after flop until this, which was the next box office hit in the series. This was literally the next one. They all flopped.
I don't know if Halloween 2 flopped. I think it did
Halloween
fine.
2 Halloween 2 might be the exception just because everyone like the first one was such a huge success. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the budget on Halloween 2 was $2.5 million, and the box office was 10 times that. So
Yeah.
that's probably a success. But 3 was a bust, even though I thought it was a great movie. And then you had like The Return of Michael Myers, Revenge of Michael Myers, Curse of Michael Myers,
Curse.
Halloween H2O, and then Halloween Resurrection, which I think is objectively the worst.
Oh yeah, Resurrection's probably the worst. H2O is fine. H2O is fun. We'll talk about it someday.
Yeah.
Very much a product of its time. It's
Yeah,
very
sure.
90s. It's
Very
very
90s.
90s. I liked 4. I thought 4 was fine. 5 sucked. So, I mean, I'm going through the list here just off the top of the dome. I haven't watched a lot of these in a while. But there's some decent. Cursed might be the worst one, to be honest. The one with Paul Rudd.
1995. Yeah.
Oh, that one was well. That one we have to do that one at some point because the shit show behind the scenes on that movie is like legendary. There's like 3 different cuts of the movie because there's like a director's cut, a studio cut, an editor's cut. I think somebody that worked on the movie for 5 minutes got his own cut. There was probably, a stand-in who had a cut of the movie. I think that they let somebody on the bus make a cut of the movie as well. It's just, it went down the line of how insane that movie and the production of that movie is. So we need to talk about that at some point.
And we will. There are plenty of Halloween seasons to come. So this is kind of fun. Review Halloween on Halloween Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a little tradition we're starting. But yeah, so like I was saying with the chronology, this one was the first one that really kind of just breathed air back into this franchise that had been in pretty rough shape at the time when it came out, especially because one of the original producers died. Like he was supposed to be in charge of the remake, and I don't have his name in front of me, so I apologize, but he was actually killed in a terrorist attack somewhere overseas. Are you familiar with the story, Rob?
No.
Oh yeah, he was killed in a terrorist attack. So they're like, all right, we need to kick this over to someone else, and Rob Zombie ended up with it, which I think it ended up in the right hands because I like the Rob Zombie vibe.
Yeah,
I'd love to see a Rob Zombie Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That just feels like the perfect movie for him, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I think. Oh well, I think the problem with that is it might be too similar to House of a Thousand Corpses.
I think House of a Thousand Corpses was loosely based on Texas Chainsaw.
That's my point. I'm not saying he couldn't crush it, but it's very similar, and it's like almost like if he's doing it, are we going to see just some? It's just going to give you. I think you're going to compare it to that more than you compare it to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre to a degree. So I don't know if I particularly want that. I'd like to give him another shot at some other franchises, though. I mean, God, can anybody do anything with the Friday the 13th franchise at the moment? There hasn't been a movie in, God, 16 years, maybe more at this point. The Nightmare on Elm Street series is also in peril at this moment. People are begging for Robert Englund to come back, and he just literally keeps saying, guys, I can't do it. I'm too old. And I can't do the physical aspects of the character. It's not going to be me.
He's
just do it. Just do
Give
it.
me something for the pain and let me die.
Just wheel him around in a wheelchair. Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's fun to see the reboots of all these movies and the sequels. I like a little bit less, but I love to see a good, like, with 30 years in between, a good remake. And if you can nail it, great. And if you don't, at least you tried. And I think this one is definitely a situation where they nailed the remake, especially after so many just absolute flops in this
Oh, yeah.
franchise.
There's some bad ones.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Can't wait.
The very end of this, I loved the end of this movie. I thought the end was fantastic. And they
It's
didn't
very abrupt and jarring, is what I
Mhm.
will say.
shocking and just nothing ends a movie like a classic final girl Hitchcock scream. There's
Yeah.
a few movies that pull this off that I can think of. The Strangers was one, I think.
Mhm.
This one is a great one. And then, just go down the list. If you could, I love that ending. It's such a nostalgic horror movie ending. And I think this was perfect. And for me, if you land it, if you stick the landing, it's absolute, positive points, which this one gets.
Yeah, I like the ending on this. It's very abrupt. If I had any issue with the ending, it's like this was set up for a sequel.
I think
Right.
Papa Squatch has the best name for a sequel to Friday the 13th, which would be Saturday the 14th.
That'd be great.
I think there is a Naked
spoof.
Gun style spoof movie that's called Saturday the 14th, if I
Oh, really?
recall correctly.
That adds up.
Yeah.
That adds
I'll
up.
look into it.
Crazy Leg says, I want to see Zombie do Pinhead. Fun fact about this movie is before they decided to do the remake, this was actually going to be a hybrid Halloween and Hellraiser movie. It was going to be a sequel, and they were going to have Michael Myers find the
The
thing.
Rubik's Cube.
yeah, what do you call it? The from Hellraiser, and he was going to open it, and it was going to be like a hybrid movie. I think
There you
that
go,
would've-
everybody. I just gave you a reason to yell at us in the comments. So not that we haven't already, but you can yell whatever the name of that thing is.
It starts with an L. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but he was going to have him open that, and it was going to be probably a train wreck of a movie.
Oh yeah, I
There's
can't
no chance
imagine.
it was going to be good, but it probably would have been fun bad. I would have watched that.
Yeah. How
For
funny
sure.
is it that as soon as like something comes out like Freddy vs. Jason, everyone's like, all right, what other horror movies can we
I know.
mash up?
I know. Yeah, we would have got Michael Myers versus Pinhead.
Yeah. My other favorite story with that is when they were pitching the Ash versus Freddy versus Jason movie, the Evil Dead
I'm with
version.
it.
They called Bruce Campbell, and they had like a quick call with him, and they were like, all right, we're thinking of doing this movie. And Bruce is like, all right, this is how I think I should kill Freddy and Jason. And he's like, and they never called me back.
That's actually fantastic.
That is fantastic, and that is how that should go.
I agree. It should
I would
go
be
that
pretty
way.
upset if he didn't win that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty
he's the
solid.
only good guy out of the three. Like you could.
That's a good point.
I highly recommend listening to the audiobook for Bruce Campbell's autobiography, the first one. I mean,
Mhm.
I liked all of the ones that he did, but the original one that talks about, I know we're talking about Evil Dead right now, but like he talks about the filming of that and some other stuff. It's really done. It's really well done. He does the voiceover for the audiobook as well. So it's really good.
Phil lets us know it was called the Leprechaun Box.
He says the Lemmer Chin box.
Yeah. I don't want to look it up because I don't remember, and I'm
looking it up because
huge-
I don't think that's the right the lament configuration. Maybe though. Hang on a sec. Yeah, the lament configuration. Yeah, Lamarchin. He's right. It's right there. Okay. Sorry, Phil.
Wow.
You were correct.
Wow,
Phil
Phil.
clearly didn't trust you there, Phil, and we
I
apologize.
didn't trust you.
Yeah, I trusted you,
Right.
Phil.
I
We should
did.
be
very
proud to
much
trust you.
trust
Look at
him.
us when wearing costumes.
All right,
Funny,
We
he
know
says
who
he's
to
bad.
trust.
He says he's bad at spelling, but I think he actually spelled it correctly. So
All right. Do
That's
we want
fine.
to give some reviews, some scores for this movie?
yes, I have this one at a 4.2.
Big score.
Mm-hmm.
I got it at an even 4. I liked it.
I'm-
It was fun.
I'm at a 3.1. Your dog doesn't even agree with
You
you.
hear my dog? She's like a 4.1.
I got it at a 3.1, so that's where I'm at with this.
Lucy, are
movie.
you all right over there? What's going on?
Yeah,
A little dog cam there.
You say
Beautiful stuff.
3.1?
yeah, 3.1.
Jesus Christ. That's low.
Yeah, that's really low. I
It
didn't
is.
think it was that bad. I thought
You're
it was
an
pretty good.
idiot.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up, because usually this is the end of it, we do have our Bucky McHat first annual pumpkin carving contest to review,
Oh,
which is
right.
very exciting.
So we're just going to go through the list here of the people who submitted entries. This is for a chance to win some merch, a t-shirt or a snapback of your choice. And if you win and you already have a t-shirt and a snapback, I don't know, message me. We'll figure something out.
Have a backup.
We'll figure something out.
I'm sorry,
ooh.
I have it pulled up here.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yes.
So we're going by total number of reactions altogether. We'll determine the winner because I can't pick a winner. I think they're all fantastic. So you're just scrolling.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you wanted to go in order here, but that's all right.
Oh, I mean, this
I will
is
start
order,
with
right?
Steve's, which I mean, I don't know if our votes count, but this is my personal favorite because of the layers that we have here.
Yeah.
So for audio listeners, we have a pumpkin here, and he has carved a toe into the face of the pumpkin on this side.
See the toe.
I didn't see the toe either.
The middle of the pumpkin is a beautifully done Bucky McHat
That is actually
ghost
fantastic.
face. So for people who are very new and don't know what Bucky McHat is, if you see the little ghost on our logo,
He's peeking over the corner there, the top right.
Yes, yeah, you see him rotating up there. So there's the face. Very well done. Very good. And then on the other side, he even added a bowl of soup.
This is a
So-
personal attack. Is what this.
This is absolutely an attack on Rob. I think it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
which is why it absolutely gets my vote. Also, dedicated the whole pumpkin to him. I think it's a beautiful work of art here.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You skipped over
next-
Demon Kings up there.
What's that?
You skipped over Demon Kings at the top.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go into my personal favorite here, and then
Oh.
I will say, but that doesn't mean that this isn't a phenomenal work of art as well.
It's
And
white.
it's a very
a ghost.
impressive. Yeah, so white pumpkin. I don't know if it's painted.
He said he spray painted it. Yeah. So
Okay, yeah, I was
Extra
gonna say
credit.
like because there are white pumpkins out there. I saw a few of them, but the inside of the pumpkin looks white as well.
Mhm.
This is great. Also, kudos to Demon King for not breaking the pumpkin because I feel like with
it's
these
so hard to do.
yeah, you have a whole bunch of punch throughs here, which I
Mhm.
learned that's what that's called by watching Halloween carving pumpkin shows this Halloween season. A lot of big spaces on the punch throughs, really well done, really well executed. Got a great amount of reacts. People seem to like it. And then I believe Demon King actually had a bonus pumpkin as well. And so here's a picture of the bonus pumpkin where he carved an HTGS. So
Oh,
he has
that's right.
both logos here.
Wait, so do we
Absolutely
combine
beautiful.
both?
What's that?
Do we combine both for the
No, I
reactions?
think
That's-
you go.
No, you
go with
can't.
his
Yeah,
bigger
you gotta-
one.
we'll go with
whichever
the-
one has the highest amount, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, I agree.
And then Wonderland Leah.
Wonderland Lee.
Leah.
Leah. Yep, I love that.
This one has some contrast to it. So this one has the kind of the negative space punch through for the ghost body, and then it's got kind of the little jack-o'-lantern face that we have going here, which I think came
It's
out
a
as a great
create-
pumpkin.
It's a creative way of doing it because if you're carving a pumpkin, you have to find a way to get the shape of the ghost plus the face. So there's the way that Demon King did it with the 3 or 4 points of contact there, and then you carve the face in the middle. This is a unique way of doing it. I haven't seen that done. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's a great pumpkin. And then we had, I believe there was one. Oh, yeah, we have Phil. Phil with this one here.
Yeah, that one's
Nailed
pretty
it.
This one is great, fantastically done.
good. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Love
has for audio listeners, kind of the same idea as Demon King's, where it has like the points, but through a little HTGS in the middle of the ghost, which is pretty impressive that you got that done. And overall, it looks fantastic. There it is before it was lit up, and just what a great look that is with the candle behind it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely phenomenal. So nice job there, Phil. And I believe, oh,
Oh, that one's
This
mine.
that's
me.
yours.
It's not. We can't vote on mine.
Dave won.
I wish. I thought it was the best.
Dave actually won all the merch.
You got to wear it all again.
God damn it! It's too
I
hard for
will
me to
say,
wear all the
Dave,
merch.
very well executed on this.
Thank you.
Very clean.
Thank you.
Nicely done. But yeah, you don't win anything.
I don't want anything.
What a terrible person you are.
There are some great in betweens too. Like I love all the pumpkins that everyone shared.
Oh
in
yeah,
between. It was actually a really fun feat. I'm going to leave it up, even though it's going to be irrelevant until next year. But I think we do this every year with the pumpkins because it's fun to see them all.
absolutely. Yeah, a couple of ghosts here. This one's got like a half ghost, half skeleton. That's very impressive.
Very
Very
well
impressive
done.
stuff, folks. I will go snap a picture of the pumpkins that carved with the kids.
Yeah.
It's amazing that everyone in our Discord is more talented than us.
I know.
So-
Thank God they all don't start their own podcasts. We'd be fucked. Great job. So the one with the most reactions overall, I believe, actually is. Just looking over them all right now, I believe it is Phil Funk.
It's actually Phil, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Phil
technically
Funk
it's
with he's almost 40, close to 40. I think he's got 30. I don't know, a lot.
It is the most. 25, it's 31 overall
31
reactions.
overall, yeah.
So nicely done, Phil. Very good.
Phil, you win if you're here right now and you're listening. Shoot
He
us
is.
a DM and we'll let you pick out a snapback or a T-shirt or I don't know. DM us.
We'll send
you some
Dave
cool
to
shit.
clean your house or something. I don't know.
You could have Dave's car.
Phil's like, wait, what? Like, dude, you won.
Yeah, you're the
You're the
champion.
winner.
Nicely
You're
done.
the, you were the fourth host of this podcast moving forward.
Third, we're gonna replace Dave.
Oh, that's right. You're up next. You're gonna make an episode.
Well done, Phil. That was actually
Love it.
pretty cool. Pretty cool. When you posted that up, I'm like, cool. No one's going to do that.
Bullshit.
Kind of like when we posted that part. I didn't even do it. That's how not dedicated. But we only got 2 pumpkins. The kids got to pick their own design. They didn't pick my logo as their design. So
Yeah. Wow.
This is why kids are the worst.
You don't get yourself a pumpkin. You don't have fun with your family. You just
He
put them
cries
right
in the
to
corner.
work.
I did pretty much all the carving. Frankie did his own. He actually got creative because, like I said, we were watching all these stupid. I mean, they're not stupid. They're actually unbelievably cool. These pumpkin carving contest shows and like the things he's.
Oh,
doing.
I've seen those. Yeah, Kate.
Yeah, Frankie got creative. He got 2 pumpkins and put like one pumpkin inside another pumpkin and carved the face of the inside pumpkin. And it actually came out pretty cool.
That's cool.
So they put a knife through its head. And
Love it.
as they continue to watch the show, they're like, I gotta go add more detail. Yeah, so they gotta do it. It was cool.
Nice.
That's fun.
Anyways, well, happy Halloween, everybody. I think that was pretty fun. And let us know what you thought. If you're watching this, let us know what you thought of the 2007 Rob Zombie version of Halloween. See if you liked it as much as me and Dave did, or if you absolutely despised it like Rob did.
I didn't despise it. I
Rob's
gave it
least
better
favorite.
than a half score. And I'm sick of getting attacked about food, Donnie, saying that I carve it from the middle out because the ends are nasty. My hot dog theory is correct, and I'm sick of defending this.
It is very hard to take you seriously on any take while you're wearing a frog suit. So I actually was like, oh, I should do this with the whole visor down the whole time. But then I realized that it's going to muffle my speech. So it would have sounded like this the whole time. And it's not that bad, right?
No, better than
You all
Bane.
right? And we'll close out the show like this. Anyway, I'll let you close it out though.
All right, that's going to do it for this horror movie review, everyone. Let us know in the comments. Shoot us an email. What did you think of this movie? Did you think it was good, great level like these 2 morons? Or did you think it was just a little better than average like myself? Let us know. I'm Rob. That's Dave. That's Jesse. We'll catch you next time, next Halloween. But we will see you on other shows before then. Dave is telling me to wait.
1 sec. I just got to answer. Phil's asking if DM on Discord works. Yes, you can DM on Discord.
Yes. But that's going to do it for us. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Happy Halloween.